the wedding that never happened. In a dusty village nestled between forgotten hills, an old bride named Miriam stood quietly at the threshold of a new beginning. At 42, she was not the picture of youth and innocence, but her eyes held stories deeper than most dared to hear. Clad in a simple white dress, she waited under the arch of wildflowers, her daughter, Anna, clutching her hand. It wasn't her first wedding, nor her first heartbreak. She had told him the truth, that she had been married once before, that her husband had died, that she was already a mother. What she hadn't expected was the reaction. The groom's family had arrived with fanfare, dancing to the beat of drums and showering her with gifts. But behind the laughter was a scheme unraveling. Someone had whispered the truth to them, that she had been already married and was now an old woman with a child. The groom, under pressure, froze. Then he said the words that shattered her. "I can't marry a woman who brings another man's child into my house." He walked away. Her daughter cried silently, confused why the pretty dress and flowers had turned into silence and stares. Miriam stood tall for her child, but inside, she crumbled. People murmured, neighbors judged, and Miriam returned home with heavy feet and a heavier heart. But fate does not always play by the rules of society. Somewhere nearby, a man had watched quietly from a distance. His name was Elias, a solitary figure who never cared for gossip. And that night, while others gossiped, he knocked on Miriam's door, not for pity, not for charity, but for something else entirely. The man who saw differently. Elias was not a man of many words. He had fought in wars, buried his parents, and seen how fragile dignity could be in a world that values image over truth. When he saw Miriam and her daughter return from the ruined wedding, something stirred within him. Not sympathy, not rescue, recognition. He came bearing no gifts, no roses, just silence and bread. Miriam eyed him cautiously. She had seen enough men with masks to know the difference between concern and control. But Elias never crossed the doorway. He simply said, "You don't deserve shame. You deserve peace. If you ever want to talk, I'll be there." Days passed. The villagers moved on to new gossip. Miriam didn't leave her home. Anna played with her torn bouquet like it was a toy from another life. Then one day, Elias left a note at her door. "Come walk with me. Let's talk under the old fig tree." She went. They sat quietly, Anna dozing in her lap. Elias spoke of his late wife, of loneliness, of the way people forget how to see others as humans. Miriam listened, her guarded heart slowly cracking open. Their walks became regular. Slowly, Miriam laughed again. Anna giggled when Elias tried to braid her hair. A new rhythm formed, one made not from desperation, but understanding. One afternoon, Elias knelt on one knee, not with a ring, but with a question, "Would you let me be your father? And if your heart says yes, would you let me be your husband?" Miriam didn't cry this time. She simply nodded. The village whispers again. News spreads fast in small places. And when the village learned that Elias had proposed to that woman, the one who was already married and too old, they whispered again, but this time with a different venom. Some said he had lost his mind. Others speculated she had cast a spell. The men mocked. The women judged. But Elias didn't flinch, nor did Miriam. Their wedding was held under the same arch of wildflowers, repaired by Elias himself. Anna walked between them, her tiny hands holding both their palms. There was no drumbeat, no dancing guests, just three souls quietly promising to never leave each other. Elias adopted Anna officially weeks later. She began calling him Papa with the kind of innocent faith only children can give. And slowly, even the harshest villagers began to soften. One day, the same groom who had once walked away passed by Elias in the marketplace. He looked tired. Regret hung around his eyes like mist. Elias offered him bread without a word. The man took it, but couldn't meet Elias's eyes. At night, Miriam sat by the fire. Elias reading, Anna asleep between them. She realized this was the family she was always meant to have. Not perfect, not planned, but profoundly real. She was no longer the woman who had been left. She was the woman who had been chosen. Love beyond labels. Years passed. Anna grew into a bold bright girl who told anyone who asked, "I have two fathers. One gave me life, the other gave me love." Miriam and Elias farmed a small piece of land on the village's edge. People no longer called her the old bride. They now came to her for advice, for comfort. She had become a symbol of strength, not by fighting back, but by enduring with grace. One day, Anna came running with a letter. She had earned a scholarship to a big city school. Tears flowed, not of sadness, but of joy, for this was the life they had fought for her to have. At the farewell dinner, Anna held both their hands and said, "If people ask who you are, I'll say, they're the ones who taught me what love really looks like." Miriam smiled. She remembered her broken wedding, her tears, her loneliness. And now, she sat across from a man who had never tried to fix her, only love her. The world might judge by age, status, or past mistakes. But in the quiet corners of life, there are stories like this, where rejection becomes redemption, and where one man's quiet courage gives a mother and child the family they never dared dream.